Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to our podcast. We're talking today about American universities, how to get in, how they are, what's the culture of a typical American university, and everything you might want to know about university life or college in the US. My name is Ben. My guest today is Leon, as usual. And also, before we get started, please make sure you subscribe to our channel. Click the subscribe button. And also, after you subscribe, make sure you click the bell. Click the bell, select all, and that way you'll know when we upload future videos. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So, welcome, Leon. How are you today?
Yeah, not bad, Ben. Not bad at all. Can't complain. How's everyone doing? How's your day coming along, Ben?
It's going along. It's coming along. It's pretty good. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, so here we are. Let's get settled in our beautiful imaginary virtual office today. We are on the campus of a East Coast University on a beautiful terrace. Look at that, guys, at sunset with a fireplace. Does it get better than this? And I even laid out some drinks for you, Leon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't complain with this kind of view. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. And this is what you might typically see in an East Coast university, because keep in mind that, universities start in, let's say late August, maybe September, but since it's, let's say in New England, right? Let's say this university's Northeast, you might see the changing of the leaves already. You'll see fall foliage, as you can see in this video. And also that style of architecture, the colonial or Georgian or federal style. That's very typical of
Mhm.
university buildings as well. But all in all, just really beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to party here too.
Oh
You know,
yes, that's a
get
reason.
party
Yeah,
here in the lounge. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned party, because I always say, if anybody's thinking of not going to college, I would say you might want to rethink that, because the
Yeah.
best parties are in college, guys. If for no other
Mhm.
reason, you go for the parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, a lot of people, of course, they're going for reasons other than the party, and
Mhm.
people are very serious about getting into the college of, I suppose, their dreams. And so, really, the place to begin really isn't so much like the first day of college, but rather the whole preparations. They start sort of at the beginning of high school, even, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's just a preparation, right? Because they prep you for how the college, get your academics, things like that. And high school is already partying kind of atmosphere. So, but the party in high school is nowhere near the party in college. I mean, what's your take on that? Because the party in college is like one level, top
Oh
notch
yeah.
kind of party. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're very restricted as far as what you can do in high school. I feel like, you're being watched all the time, right? When you're in high
Exactly.
school, you're living with your parents, because a lot of kids, keep in mind, in American universities, they go away to college, so they're not living with their parents anymore, so they get to spread their wings, do some crazy things. And yeah, so there's that as well.
hmm Yeah, I
uh,
mean, like, imagine like going to a party and in a nice, very university, especially a big university, making new friends. I think we talked about the frat houses and the sorority houses. I mean, that's to another level. Yeah.
oh yes, definitely. And of course, preparing to get into college starts at the beginning of high school, because a lot of people will start thinking, okay, um, they know they want to go to college. They know they want to go to, well, we often say college too, as opposed to university. We'll say, we know we want to go to college. Maybe we don't know which one yet. Okay. Or maybe you do, because your parent, everybody in your family went to the same place. There's a lot of people like that, where they're, generations at a certain university. That's not uncommon. But let's say you
hmm
don't know where you want to go, but at least you know that as you start high school, you should be starting to think about the kind of classes you want to take, and you need to think about the grades you need to get in order to get into a good college, or the college of your choice, because they look at your your high school grade point average, your grades, as well as a standardized test that we have to take. So they look at those two things plus other things as well, which we'll get into, like activities and that kind of stuff. But did you start thinking about college at the beginning of high school? When did it sort of come onto your radar? Like, okay, I need to think about college.
For me, it started like 11th grade, junior level.
Hmm.
Once I was a junior, I started thinking about, okay, what colleges do I want to go? Kind of when I was a sophomore, I kind of have an idea where I would like to go to. But usually some people start off as a freshman. When they're a freshman, they're really thinking about, okay, what college do I need to go to? I need to get my academics up. I need to, make sure I have a certain GPA average and a really good GPA average so I can hit those kind of colleges that I want to get. But for me, I would say I started, identifying what colleges I'd like to go to or apply for in my junior year. But
Hmm.
I really started like uh freshman, I guess, like what college I wanted. I mean, we're from LA, right? So
Yeah.
two top notch is UCLA and USC. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I think in LA the most popular ones is probably USC. That was the most popular.
Mhm.
Of course, there's a lot of people who likes UCLA, but you have to have a really good grade point average. For me, it was USC, but I didn't have the grades. I wasn't strong enough to get to that. I tried going to UCLA. I couldn't. My cousin went there. Also one of my cousins graduated from there. I went there because seen the campuses, hung out there, but I was more from Cal State Long Beach. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, typically, yes, it's pretty common for people to get serious about, like you get serious about college applications and where you want to go by the time you're a junior. And if you guys are wondering, what is this junior sophomore thing? So in the different years of high school, the first year, second, third, and fourth, we have different names for them. And I think it's an American thing. First year
Yeah.
is, yeah, right. So first year is freshman, second year, sophomore, and junior, and then your last year is your senior. So those four terms. And yeah, so a lot of people, that's when you really get serious, is in your junior year, your third year of high school, where you're going to choose and you're going to really think about and you're preparing for your standardized test, your exam. But even before that, there are people who will start thinking about, what sports they're going to play, what volunteer work they're going to do, what sort of social clubs or what clubs they're going to be in, what type of activities they're going to be a part of in high school, because it's all part of like your resume, what you've been doing with your life while you're in high school, because colleges care about all those kinds of things. And so people will start thinking about that even in the very beginning. I don't like, were you big in clubs in high school? Because there's some people that are like, I got to join this club because it's going to look good on my college application.
Yeah, exactly. And what about you? When did you decide to think about, college, what college you wanted to go to? What grade were you in when you started deciding on that?
Well, I knew that I was going to go for sure, but I didn't narrow it down to which schools until, like you, junior year. But along the way, even in the very beginning, I knew that I need to have good academics and good grades in order to be more competitive. So that was definitely a focus always from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's really great how you talked about like, going to sports, what kind of sports and volunteer work, because it's very important, especially if you want to get a scholarship, right? Because
Yeah.
some people goes for the scholarship and not many people can get the scholarship, right? So
Right.
you really have to have a good GPA, and even if you have a great GPA, you have to show your resume, like your volunteer work. What did you do to the community? It really plays out an important part. I mean, if you played sports, it's a great thing. That's why we have a lot of sports in the US. And
Yeah.
you don't have to have a really strong GPA if you're one of the top sports athletes out there, especially like American football, for example. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So if you know what, you got to know your strengths, right? If you know that you're academically not that great, but you're athletically very well, you're very inclined athletically, like you're really good in sports. Okay, go ahead, focus on sports. Be a really good football player and be an okay academic. And then you can still get into the best schools in this country. Isn't that amazing? You can not be
Yeah.
that smart, but you can be a great football player and you're off to Yale, you're off to Harvard, you know?
Hmm. And let's not get it twisted too, right? Because some of the athletes, some of them have a really bad GPA. Some of them I've heard that can't even read by the time they graduate, but they're getting scholarship because that's how good they are in their football.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
that's a very, very small fraction of percentage in terms of having something like that. I mean, you really have to be really good. But I've heard a
Yes.
lot of people, their GPAs, they don't have, some people can't even read, for example, and they get a scholarship. But, again, that's like a fraction percentage. So don't even think
Mhm.
about that unless you're really a high-end athlete.
I see what you're saying. So it's kind of like it's like winning the college lottery, right? To go on a
Yeah,
football scholarship. Okay, I see. Okay,
yeah.
right.
Hmm.
Well, it's still a better bet to study hard and get the grades.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because like I said, it's a small fraction. It's like less than 1% if you're
Yeah,
able
that's
to do
true.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes. But the fact that in America you can go to a prestigious college just on a athletic scholarship is amazing because I don't know if
Yeah.
that happens in other parts of the world.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah.
And you talk about GPA, you talk about grade point average. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically your overall grades or how your scores on, in all your classes. And basically, a grade point average is basically uh, 4 is the highest. However, if you take advanced classes, upper level classes, it can be up to 5. But anyway, 4 is supposed to be like the maximum. But for people who take advanced college level classes in high school, you can theoretically get higher than a 4.0, but 4 is the max. So if you're anywhere near a 4, you're doing well. If you're over a 4, you're doing very well. But yet also, believe
Mhm.
it or not, in the great college, in the really good universities, getting a 4.0 is actually not good enough because everybody applying to those universities
Yes,
are getting a 4.0.
exactly, precisely. I knew one of my classmates, she was a cheerleader, a varsity cheerleader, and she played sport and she also volunteered, and her GPA was 4.0, and she got a
Mm-hmm.
scholarship. She was probably the only person I knew who got a scholarship in my class. But she did all of that. It wasn't just the grade point average, it was also getting involved, like cheerleading, varsity cheerleader,
Yes.
and sport that she did. She did like track and field and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, volunteer in hospitals and things like that. So she was very active and she deserved getting a scholarship. So, but very few are able to do that because you're competing with everybody in the world. Everyone, maybe not, I don't know about everyone in the world, but everyone in the US, right? So,
Sure.
and a lot of them are applying in Southern California because of the weather, right?
Yeah.
Some people wants to come to LA and they're transplant, they're different places. They have great schools in the East Coast, but a lot of them wants to come to California because of all, the weather, the environment, and everything else. Yeah.
And yeah, the thing is, with American universities, they really love candidates who are well-rounded. So we really don't like people who all they do is study. Uh, we want people who are well-rounded. They not
Hmm.
only are they getting good grades, but we want you to also be that person who is who you've traveled a lot, you've seen the world. That needs to go on your resume. You've done volunteer work. We love that. You're an athlete. We love that. But if you all you've done is just studied, I don't think that you're a very attractive candidate, no matter how high your score is. There's going to be somebody with a score as high as you, but who's also done 5 other things in their lives. And so it's not a good idea to focus only on academics if you want to get into the best universities in America.
Yeah, and the best ones are the Ivy Leagues. I mean, that's like the top notch. I mean, if you're able to get to the Ivy Leagues, once you graduate there, you don't even have to look for a job. They're going to come to you and they're going to hire you. That's how good the Ivy
Yes,
Leagues are. Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's
Yes.
not easy to get in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So yeah, so a lot of kids in high school, they're very calculating in terms of what they choose to do in high school, the clubs they do, the social, whatever they do socially, the type of
Hmm.
classes they take. This is all part of the whole. Okay, we're going to start assembling ourselves. We're going to create our package to present to a university. So a lot of what we do in high school, we're careful to think about how will this look when we apply to the university of our dreams? And we don't
Hmm.
apply to one, do we? We apply to a bunch typically.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, we apply as many as we can. If it's going to be 50 to 100, yeah, we go for it. Like, of course, we choose what university we want to work for. I mean, apply for, right?
Yeah.
Depends on the city, the state, and the academics or the profession you want to get into.
Yes. And again, back to this idea of your academics, they're not everything. Your application for your university also includes an essay. So you have to write, why you want to go there. I suppose why you want to go there, why you're a good candidate, whatever questions they might ask you. You have to write an essay. Plus, if you're lucky, you will be asked to do an interview. They might want to interview you, and if they do, that means they're already interested. But if they don't interview you, that's not it's not a good sign, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, so
exactly.
a lot of soft skills come into play too.
Mhm. And I wanted to ask you too, maybe now is a good time to do a reset about the subscription. So maybe, subscribing with on YouTube here. So if you'd like to
For sure, yeah,
inform
that's
the
good.
people, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. So, we're talking about American universities, how to get in, what is the culture, and but before we continue, I want to remind you guys to click the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel for more great content like this. And also, please click the bell, select all. That way, you'll know when we upload future videos. And also support this video, everybody, by giving it a thumbs up. And if you like and want to share, do click that share button. We would really appreciate it. If you have any comments, if you have any questions about what we've been talking about or what you would like us to talk about, please feel free to leave a comment. We'll do a video answering your questions. So please feel free to engage with us. And all right, so let's get back to our topic about universities.
Yeah, and another thing too is like you get a chance to visit the campuses, see if it's the right campus for you, especially if you get a lot of invitations and you can kind of visit the campus, see which campus is best for you, which, best fits your personality, the environment, where you best fits you. Yeah.
Oh yes, yes, the college visits,
Mhm.
and
And especially if you're in a dorm, because you're going to be traveling or you're going to be moving to a different state, perhaps if it's not going to be in your own hometown. So that means you're going to be living in a dorm or maybe find an apartment near, the university or the campus. So it's a lot of things that you got to look into and factor in.
yes, yes, that's right. That's the other thing is at the universities, like when you first start, you might, if you live there, you might live in a dorm, or you might live, a dorm is, what is a dorm? So a dorm is like a building, like an apartment building that is owned by the university. And
Yeah.
the rent is typically cheaper because you're sharing a room. I guess you can get your own room, but it's common to share a room with one other
Yeah, it's
person,
more
sometimes
expensive.
several others.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great experience when you share with roommates because it builds long time friendship and
Yeah.
just to experience it. I mean, there are co-eds and there are some, separations between boys and girls, so that's also another factor too. So it depends on where you want to go or which dormitory. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And of course, there's great parties in the dorms as well, and
Yeah.
the real social scene.
Hmm. Yeah. Especially like spring break. I don't know if you all heard about spring break, what you see on TV, about going to Florida. Mostly the people who goes to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, are people like in the East Coast, New York, Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania. People
Yeah.
even from Chicago, they travel to the south of Florida to kind of get that break, spring break. So there's parties, there are a lot of things happening there. For us in the West Coast, I think ours is more like Vegas or Palmdale or somewhere in the desert, Tijuana, TJ. Yeah, I mean, we tend to go more in the, I guess, Vegas or
Hmm.
um, or in the desert kind of thing. There's also like, what's that one? Palm Springs is
Palm
a very
Springs.
another hotspot that spring break and also San
Oh yeah.
Diego. But a
Yeah.
lot of us also go to TJ
Hmm.
because TJ is so cheap. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, and if you want to see Americans misbehaving, go to Florida for spring break. It's a big mess.
Yeah. Yeah, you see it on MTV, right? You see
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that party. I
yeah.
think spring break is the closest thing. I always tell my students, spring break is the closest thing to Carnival in Brazil, in Salvador,
Hmm.
but it's only like probably 50% of what really happens. I mean, it's a different type of partying in Salvador. I mean, we're talking about millions of people on the streets and having a good time and drinking and, you know, dancing, partying. It's our party is like wild. Our party is like, you know how we Americans were crazy, we're drinking. I mean, I don't want to, promote things and things like that, but yeah, I mean, it happens like drugs, orgies, sex. I mean, it's your typical thing that happens in a young crowd atmosphere, in that kind of environment. So, but also chaos in terms of flipping cars over. It just gets too wild. People can't handle their alcohol. So compare that to Brazil. They don't do that. It's just all about enjoying. I guess it's more safe in a way. Well, to a
Hmm.
certain point. Yeah.
Oh, they're more sane because Americans can get really unruly and crazy, and
Yes.
a lot of illegal acts during spring break, a lot of arrests and things like that.
Hmm. Exactly. Mhm.
That's mostly in
And
Florida.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes there's also we have different type, right? In the schools, we have the state university level and we have the university level. They're both university, except one is funded by the state. Let's say Cal State University, whether if it's whatever state you're from in California, for example, that's funded by the state. And then the university itself, like University of Southern California, for example, that's funded by the federal. So but they're both universities. I just wanted to, kind of give them an idea because sometimes they say, well, what's the difference? How come I see California or state university of or university of? What's the difference? Yeah.
Right. And also, there's also community colleges as well. There are community colleges that are just 2 year colleges, where some people will go to a community college for 2 years instead of going to a university, which is a 4 year program leading to a 4 year degree. A community college, you can't get a 4 year degree, it's only 2 years. And so, but sometimes people go there just for general education study at the college level. They'll go there for 2 years and then they'll transfer into a 4 year university and they'll ultimately graduate with the degree from the 4 year university. That's actually a strategy that some people employ where if they don't get accepted to their dream university, they'll go to a community college for the first 2 years, but they better do really well because what happens is if you do really well in those 2 years at a community college, then you'll be able to transfer to a prestigious school that maybe you wouldn't have been able to get into from just out of high school. Some
Yeah,
people do that.
exactly. If you don't have the grades from high school, you take a 2 years because you need a high GPA. And once you get to junior college and you get all your general eds and stuff like that, it's much easier for you to get into university as long as you have the good grades. Some people, yeah, they transition go to junior universities is because or community colleges is because they don't have the money. So it's easier for them to go to junior colleges and get all the general eds because it's cheaper for them. So that's also another thing. But most of the time they go to junior college because they don't have the grades for it. So yeah. But
Mhm.
keep in mind that when you go to community college, it's a higher percentage of you not graduating to a 4 year college. Because once they get to junior college, maybe after 2 years or maybe less, they decide like, I don't want to go to college anymore. I'm just going to go work. And some people take a 2 year, take an AA degree and start working from there, and they don't decide to go to a 4 year bachelor type degree.
That's right. Yeah, some people stop at the community college level. I call it community college, but yes, it's also called junior college. Same thing. And the degree at a junior college is at AA versus like a bachelor's. A bachelor's is the 4 year degree that you all are probably familiar with, but then at the junior college level, you get the AA. Um, And what's interesting is that in America, if let's say you want to go to law school, or you want to go to medical school, well, you can't go to law school and medical school right out of high school like you can in many other countries. In America, you have to complete a 4-year university program. You have to have a bachelor's degree first, and then you can start medical school. Then you can start law school. Then you can go get your MBA or whatever. But in many other countries, you can go to medical school right out of high school. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Uh-huh.
they lump it all into one.
And keep
And
in mind, going to universities and schools in US, they're expensive. I mean,
oh
people
yes.
don't realize how expensive they are. I mean, like, for example, the price, like if you went to a California tuition in Long Beach, I mean, you're paying like 7,000 plus the books, plus another
Mm-hmm.
1,000 for,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe the room and the board, 15,000. It's probably going to cost you 15,000 just for a semester, probably, for, well, yeah, 15,000. That's how much it's going to cost you. And if you're like out of state, when I say you're out of state, say, for example, you're in New York and you want to come to California. Well, you're not a resident of California or Southern California. That makes you an out of state. So you end up paying higher tuition. So your
Oh,
tuition is going to be like maybe 19,000 versus us that we live in LA that we're only going to pay like 15,000. So we kind of get a discount from that. So keep
oh
that in
wow.
mind. And if you're an international, oh my gosh, I don't even know how much that price is
It's
going to
very
be if you
expensive.
were from international. Yeah.
Yes, university college education in America is very expensive. And that's not even like, for example, the private elite universities. They're now
Hmm.
100,000 a year, $100,000 a year for an
Hmm.
elite private university. So it's really high. And people have talked about, is it even worth it? Because 4 years, you're in it for $400,000. How, I mean, where are you coming up with 400,000? Okay, hope maybe your parents can afford it, but let's say you can't. Let's say you take out student loans. You're $400,000 in student loan debt. What kind of a job would you get when you graduate that will enable you to pay back $400,000? A lot of people aren't happy about that reality, right?
Yeah. And that's why you see a lot of students who graduates, they're in debt. I
Oh
mean, they
yeah.
owe a lot on the student loans, and this is one of the bad problems. So they're working, but they can't even, their life isn't even starting it because they still got to pay all their student loans. By the time they really pay their student loans, you're looking at maybe like 5 years before they really, get settled and start doing things because they got to pay that loan in 5 years or something. Yeah. Takes them
Yeah,
at
and
least 5 years to pay it. Yeah.
oh, even more sometimes. I've heard of
Yeah.
people, 20 years into it, they're still paying off their student
Yeah.
loans. So
Exactly.
it's essentially the cost of buying a house, your student loans. So people
Yeah.
might take 20 or 30 years to pay off their student loans. And one of the things about student loans that is that it's not dischargeable in bankruptcy, which means you can't declare bankrupt. No matter how broke you get, you can't declare bankruptcy and wipe out your student loans. Um, so it stays with you for life.
Mhm. Yeah, like here in Brazil, I mean, people graduating from high school, when they go apply for a university at school, they take a test. And if they pass that test, all expenses are paid. They don't even have to pay for their school. It's all governmentally
Oh,
funded. So they don't
okay.
have to pay anything. So this is
Okay.
great. If you don't pass and then you go to kind of like a private university or something like that, then you end up paying. But the
Mhm.
majority, the government pays for it. You don't hear that in the US. That's a scholarship, but this one here, if you pass a test, you get in for free. I don't know how it is there in Italy. I mean, what's your experience there in Italy, or what's
Well,
your
the tuition at the Italian universities are very, very affordable. Not just compared to the U.S., but I think in general it's super affordable. I mean, we're talking the public universities, which are very good. There are several, I mean, maybe in the low four figures per year, the low four figures per year.
Mhm.
So you can get a 4-year degree at an Italian university for cheaper than it would cost you to for one semester at an American university.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe I don't know if that's shocking in a good way or a bad way. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know. But it does seem like, once again, if we're looking at the $400,000 for a bachelor's degree, that's kind of, that's a lot of money, because these days, a bachelor's degree, I mean, it's like a lot of people have a bachelor's degree. So I don't know that you're all that competitive. And you know what I mean with the bachelor's, but
Hmm.
meanwhile, it costs you 400,000, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Yeah, and some states are cheaper. It depends on what college you're going to or what state you're going to. Like, for example, Massachusetts, you probably pay like 12,000 per semester or something. And
Hmm.
Massachusetts is like the seventh smallest state in the US, right? So,
Hmm.
and then if you were to go to, say, New Jersey, maybe like Rutgers or Princeton, maybe, I think you're paying like 13,000 per semester. The cheapest one, I think, in the U.S. is Florida. I think Florida is like 4,000, and
Oh,
Washington
really?
State is like
Okay.
7,000. So these are the two most. I think one, not the cheapest, but definitely Florida is the cheapest, 4,000. But like Washington is like 7,000. So that's why
Okay.
a lot of people, a lot of immigrants, and all that, they go to Washington and go to school there. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
University
Okay.
of Oregon and things like that. Yeah.
But I guess it's not all doom and gloom, in that if you really do not come from means, but you do have the inclination to go to college, you do have the grades, you're totally qualified. Of course, you can get scholarships, and those can be they can be super generous, right? The scholarships, you can get some grants from the government, where the government gives you money. So there are a lot of
Hmm.
programs to help people who can't afford college. So if your grades are good, if you're a great candidate, there are ways for people who come from low income families to get into a good university. It's not like only wealthy people can go to college. That's furthest thing from the truth. And you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to go into huge debt, because you can apply for these grants and these programs, this sort of free money from the government, or scholarships. So there are ways, but it is expensive, but there are ways.
Hmm. Exactly. And then there's also the student visa,
Hmm.
Before I get into the student visa, I think now is a good time to reset and, about subscribing here. So that
Oh,
way,
yes.
tune in for the student visa. Then we'll
All
talk
right.
about the subscription. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, guys, you're listening to this podcast about American universities. If you have any questions, if you want to ask anything, if you have suggestions about universities or anything, please feel free to leave a comment. Maybe there's something that you're wondering we haven't talked about yet. Leave a comment. Ask us the question. I reply to all comments. And if your comment is good, we'll do a video answering your question. And also, please support the video by giving this video a thumbs up, share it with your fellow English language learner. And of course, please click the subscribe button and also click the bell. And when you click the bell, select all, and that way you'll know when we upload future videos. Very important to click the bell and select all, because if you don't do that, YouTube will not show you future videos that we upload on your home feed, on your homepage rather. So make sure you click the bell. Okay, so let's get back to our discussion on American universities.
Yeah, I was just going to say about the student visa. I mean, there's like the SEVP, which is the Student Exchange Visitor Program, and it's got to be approved by the school in the US. And this is like you need like 6 to 12 months before you study in the US. And then you
Mm,
also have like you got to pay all the fees, visa application fees, the information system fees. You got to pay all that. So that means you have to have a lot of money. And then there's also like the F1, which is the you fill out a U.S. student visa application, which is the F1, and they got to be like an academic student. Like for you to enter the U.S., you got to be like a full-time student for all schools, like elementary, high school, college, university, language training programs, etc. And then there's like a form I-20. It's like a certificate of eligibility for non-immigrant students, like Homeland Security. You got to fill
mm,
those out. Then you got the
mm.
bank balance. They're going to be checking everything. So
Oh,
you got the
yeah.
bank balance for the U.S. student visa. The I-20 form says that you got to have at least 25,000 in your account. Most likely, you need probably 50,000 for your study. And then of
Okay.
course the visa officers are going to check for everything. Your student background, your family situation, your employment history, financial ability. pay for the trip, travel history, plan for the future, etc. I mean, you got to meet all these qualifications in order to get your student visa. So it's not that easy.
I imagine it's not. And uh, not only is the process very involved and complicated, but the cost in itself is probably a deterrent for many people. And like you said, I think maybe for international students, you really have to have some money to be able to study in the US, because whatever we pay, you're paying more, right?
Hmm.
And it's already high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else? We have we need to be wrapping up soon as the podcast is getting long, but of course we can do another continuation of this podcast, more about universities, in another one as well. And of course, if you guys want to leave a comment with questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions in the next podcast. Let's say the sequel to this one. But what else should we talk about briefly, Leon, before we wrap up here about universities?
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, Ivy Leagues is the one that I mentioned earlier about, getting into an Ivy League that a lot of people are familiar with, like, excuse me, like Harvard, for example, or
Hmm.
Yale,
Yeah.
Princeton, Columbia, let me see, Cornell, Brown.
Hmm.
I'm missing maybe a couple more. I think
Hmm.
University of Pennsylvania,
Yeah, that's right.
maybe
Duke.
Dartmouth or something.
Uh-huh.
I think those are the eight most Ivy Leagues in the
Hmm.
United States. So a lot of the international people are familiar with these schools, but like I said, it's not easy to get into these schools. But once you get in, yeah, you're going to have the top-notch employer is going to seek you out and probably make a six-figure right away in your first year, or maybe
Hmm.
200K, 300K, who knows? Depends on your profession. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's very interesting is the people who, if you went to Ivy League, I've noticed that some Ivy Leaguers, they will use their university email address for years, because people really want that harvard.edu email address. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People, yeah.
Right.
I
Uh-huh.
see that. It's a thing. It's a thing, it's sort of like your you know what? I think it's a status thing for sure, but it's like a designer brand, in America where you went to
Hmm.
college. And of course we often display it as well because it's very American to wear like a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or a cap
Hmm.
of the school we went to. That's very common.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said like you flaunt it, you show it, and when you put it on your LinkedIn and you're applying, and an employer sees you're from Harvard or from Yale, I mean, you're gonna definitely get in the that chain of being hired compared to
Yeah.
somebody who was in a smaller university. I mean, your
You at least
chances,
get the interview.
yeah, your chance is gonna be really high in getting that
Yes.
job.
It'll open doors.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't know if this must be just an American thing, and then we'll end with this. But it's very common also for people to put on their license plate on their car a frame around their license plate. It's so American
Mm.
that states the school they went to. Like UCLA license plate frame, USC
Hmm.
license plate frame. It's a frame that goes around your license plate. Harvard,
Hmm.
whatever. It's very common for
Yeah,
people to do that.
yeah, nice.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. We've reached the end here. Once again, if there's something that we didn't talk about, if you have questions about American universities, please leave it in the comment. I'll reply to all comments, and also we might make a video answering your question. Plus, we are going to do an additional video, a sequel to this as well. So please feel free to engage with us. Give this video a thumbs up, share the video, and don't forget, hit the subscribe button and also the bell. Select all, excuse me, yeah, select all after you click the bell. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for listening to the end. And Leon, thank you for a great time.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for listening, making it this far. Make sure to share this video, this podcast, this audio. Let it go viral. People out there wants to learn, so make sure to share it.
Okay. Thanks, Leon. Thank you, everybody. See you guys in the next podcast. Bye bye for now.
See you, everyone. Ciao.